Michelle 360. How are you? So hey, we're back in the closet, but you know what? There's nothing wrong being in the closet. Come out when you're ready. But no, seriously, we're back in the closet because again, it's just chaos, and so this is the quietest place we could be. But I'm back to talk about disbandments and reunions. Not necessarily in that order because I only have one reunion really to talk about. So bear with me on that. It's something that you guys asked me to talk about when I did the live Misery season, and that was the reunion of 2NE1. And I want to talk about that because I don't know, I have mixed feelings about that, to be honest with you. So I really wonder how much of a reunion are we actually going to be getting for 2NE1. Don't get me wrong, I want 2NE1 to come back. I think anyone who was a fan of girl groups in second gen wants 2NE1 to come back, especially because I don't think that we got 2NE1's disbandment in a way that was necessarily respectful to the legacy of that group. Speaking specifically of Young, and then just the trickle down of the disbandment, I think, was very disrespectful to the group. So let me jog your memory, if you will. Go back in time with me to when Minzy left 2NE1. So it was after the seminal K-pop album Crush, which I stand on business in saying Crush has got to be one of the top 10 K-pop albums of all time. Some people it would be top 3, some people top 5. I'm going to say top 10 because I want to leave room for first, third, and fourth generations here. But if we're talking of all time, Crush is easily top 10 to me. Well, after Crush released, there were some difficulties with Park Bom's situation to begin with. Park Bomb, in an effort to kind of obfuscate, hey Anthony, in an effort to kind of obfuscate from the actual bad business that YG was practicing in his relationships with the Park Geun-hye presidency at the time. Park Bomb's news of her getting, I think it was like Adderall or something sent to her in the mail, end up being on everybody's screens. And so 2NE1 really couldn't even revel in the success of Crush all that long because they had to kind of stop promoting once Park Bomb was accused of being an international drug smuggler, drug addict. And again, psych meds. It was not meth, it wasn't coke, it wasn't heroin, it wasn't fentanyl, it was psych meds. So anyway, that happens. They go on a brief hiatus. They come back. I want to say it might have been the Mama Awards was the last four-piece performance before Minzy left the group. They have this really triumphant performance. Everyone's super excited. We're hoping the hiatus can stop. Minzy leaves the group. After Minzy leaves the group releases the song Annyeong. If you don't remember, it's Annyeong, Annyeong. I think it's called Miss You or Missing You on Spotify, like the English version of the name. They released that, and initially all of us were like, oh wow, they wrote this song telling Minzy goodbye. That's really sad, but also like kind of shady because what the fuck. But YG, the label, says 2NE1 will have a comeback. So we're not told this is the last 2NE1 song. We're told this is a goodbye to Minzy. 2NE1 is coming back. And then I want to say maybe a month, 2 months later, they announce 2NE1's not coming back. Bomb is no longer with YG. It's just CL and Dara who are with the label now. So Annyeong actually ended up being the goodbye song for 2NE1. And over the years, we've had crumbs of 2NE1 reunions. We've had the Coachella, I think it was, the Coachella stage. We have had pictures for anniversaries. We've had people show up on television shows to talk to each other. We've had people promoting each other's stuff. Like Sarah said, we've had that horrible Minzy career. We've had a lot of things going on in the time since. But throughout the time, it's been a slow kind of exit from YG. The first one to leave after Minzy left was Bomb, which I just said, but then after that, CL leaves YG because YG totally fucked up her American/international debut. It's so crazy to me when I think about all of the I can't even think of the words because the situation is so frustrating that like I have a bunch of things going through my mind. But I remember when Hello Bitches came out. And all of us were so excited because we're like, this is the type of energy we need. Like, it first started out with CL doing, I want to say it was like a Diplo track or something like that. And then when CL came out with Hello Bitches, we were all like, this is so exciting. We're so excited. If this is the kind of music we're going to have from CL doing an American debut, this is exactly what we want people to see. This is exactly how we want people to talk about K-pop. In my opinion, Hello Bitches was one of the best songs CL could have ever done in terms of trying to introduce herself and who she is to the American audience. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit ahead of its time, but it was a song that merged Korean phrases with American language. The video was fun. It was from the same dance crew that did Justin Bieber's Sorry video. I can't remember the name of the dance crew right now, but they're a very famous dance crew and they did a lot of work for YG, ton of work for YG. But I remember thinking, like, this is great. This sets the vibe. I can't wait to see what the official first song is. And then the official first song comes out, and it's fucking Get Lifted. Also, at this time, I want to say YG was working heavily with Scooter Braun, which Scooter Braun is the biggest scam artist in all of music history. I don't care who you are, where you come from, what genre you want to talk about. Scooter Braun has managed to finesse his failure into him being one of the biggest executives at Hybe. He managed to make Hybe give him money for a business that honestly was pretty much gutted right after Hybe took it over. He has managed to take credit for Justin Bieber's career while doing the very minimal best for Justin Bieber. He managed to take credit for Ariana Grande's career doing the minimal best he could for Ariana Grande. He did nothing to help Demi Lovato's career at all. I don't know why Homegirl is there. He is a Zionist as well. Thank you for putting that in the conversation. Like, Scooter Braun is a scam. Straight up and down, he's a scam. But Get Lifted is the song that YG and Scooter Braun decided was the move for CL. I want you to close your eyes because I want to paint a picture for you if you've never seen this video. Imagine a beautiful woman in a bikini looking out over New York City. She's looking out over New York City in a beautiful bikini. She's got a fur coat on, hair slicked back. There's two beautiful men rubbing on her body. And immediately after setting this scene, we have a Korean lady walking through the streets of New York with her gangster vest on, shouting how she's got a 40 and she's got her a shorty and she's about to go get lifted at the black folks park party. If that sounds crazy to you, if it sounds insane, if it sounds borderline racist, that is Get Lifted. Method Man from Wu-Tang is in the video, which is nice because Get Lifted kind of is it's a refrain from one of Method Man's songs. But it was a terrible song. It was a kind of mid-tempo, not very upbeat song. It was a very stripped down song. Because she's still a Korean star, she says Get Lifted, but she can't actually talk about smoking weed in the song because smoking weed at home is not good business and she needs to keep a career there. So instead, the Getting Lifted is floating in the clouds. CL talks about having a shorty. CL is a woman. I don't think they're alluding to any lesbianism on her part, so it's obvious that a man wrote this song, a man who maybe isn't familiar with American vernacular, and decided saying that CL has a shorty would be appropriate. It is awful, and it kills every bit of steam that CL had. Then, years later, we find out there was a whole other video shot for a whole other song. And it was good. The song was good. The video was good. It could have been good. There were a lot of things that could have happened for CL that could have been great. Even her singing the refrain to Dr. Peppa before Hella Bitches came out, that could have been fun. But it just went nowhere. So then CL has an opportunity once again to capture the world's attention, to be on the main stage of everyone's hearts. She is invited to be a part of the opening ceremony for the Seoul Olympics. And this is in 2016 because obviously it was in 2020. 2020 was Tokyo, and then 2024, obviously, we're in Paris. So the 2016 Olympics, CL is invited to get up on the main stage, show the world what she's got, do her thing. She's still under YG at this point. I want to be sure you put that in your fucking mind. She's still with YG at this point. CL is given $5, a string of jewels, and I think she's probably given an old half a pack of Marlboros and told, create a stage with this, invite some interns who need the credits for their college class to be your background dancers, see if you can dust off one of Dara's old wigs and make it work. So CL comes out on stage to perform at the 2016 Olympics looking not her best, dressed not her best, hair not her best, makeup not her best, supporting players not their best, and is expected to show the world Korea's greatness, expecting to show the world her greatness. And she's given all the support of a wet cardboard box. I knew then she needed to leave, but it would take more time for her to leave, because you know what else was happening around this time? Her mother was actively dying. So CL waited until she could at least close the casket, and then she finally leaves YG. And then, after kind of being offered the very last web series that they were ever going to be able to get her on, finally Dara leaves. I think the pandemic really did it for Dara, and she wasn't being offered any more horrible acting roles for her to do, and they were continuing to not offer her any music. So she finally decided, I have no value here at YG, and she leaves. Oddly enough, we do get a little bit of music from Dara, but yeah, Dara finally leaves. And I thought, after how bad YG did Minzy, after how Minzy's dad basically had to threaten to beat YG's ass for him to let Minzy go, after the way that he pretty much killed any dreams that CL had of being an international pop star, after the way that he consistently gave Dara nothing but handouts and hand-me-downs and leftovers from the acting department, after the way he allowed Bomb to be used as a scapegoat for his illicit activities and get the attention off of him, I really thought that the last people that anyone would ever reach out to talk about any kind of reunion would be YG. I really and truly thought, like, if anybody was ever going to reach out to YG for anything, it would be Sungri once he got out of whatever alcoholic haze he's in, or I thought, maybe G-Dragon before that whole blow up would stay with YG because he was raised there and incubated there. But no, 2NE1 decided, we would like to have a reunion, and because he owns the name, we would like to have a reunion under YG. Let me tell you something. When HyunA left SM, they left SM without their name. The only thing they were allowed to use was a symbol, because the symbol they used was not trademarked. But they were not allowed to use their name. Anyone could call them HyunA, but they couldn't release a single stitch of merchandise, an album, anything with the name HyunA. They were not allowed to do it because SM still holds the copyright for HyunA. They just got it back, I want to say, like a handful of years ago, but it was a long time before they were able to actually use HyunA, the name HyunA. But 2NE1 could have come back as 2NE2. 2NE1 could have come back as, them bad girls. They could have come back as Eden's Crush. They could have come back as anything. And I would have supported them. They didn't have to be called 2NE1 in order for me to support them. But no. I think the name held enough value for them to believe that they needed to go ahead and go back into the YG fold. And based on the earnings report that YG had not that long ago, and how they basically made enough money to buy a used Subaru Outback, YG probably needs to make sure they step up their support game when it comes to anyone, because Baby Monster's not making money for them right now. Treasure's not really rolling in the dough like people think that they are. Basically, losing Blackpink as a promoting entity on the label sucked all of the market value out of YG. And so, yeah, 2NE1 needs to come back home. And so, I just, I understand that the name is IP. I understand the name is SEO search value. I understand a lot of things about everything that matters with the name 2NE1. But when I say I am devastated that those girls have to have anything to do with YG. I'm devastated. The only thing I could think of is the reason why they had to go back to YG in order to have this reunion is that YG was not going to allow them to perform their songs. That's the only thing I could think of, because I think Dara was still with YG when they did Coachella. I think, don't quote me on that. And so maybe that's the reason why they were all allowed to do the songs together. But Bomb does the songs by herself all the time, because I've seen footage of her performing those songs by herself all the time. But yeah, I don't know why they would go back to their abusive ex, but that's where they've decided to go. I'm going to support them in whatever way makes sense for me to support them, but I hate having to give even one brown penny to YG after all the bullshit and shenanigans he pulled with that group. Also, like, not for nothing, I just feel like YG doesn't have anything for 2NE1 in terms of creativity, ideas, even music. Like, YG is supporting a 2NE1 reunion, but is the label supporting a full album? Is the label supporting more than just a reunion concert in Seoul? Because right now, that's really the only concrete thing that we know about is a reunion concert. Is YG going to support a world tour? Because really, right now, if 2NE1 wanted to stack their money up, they could do a world tour. We would give you money for that. If you came to LA, New York, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, you could make money with live appearances. That could totally happen. But I don't necessarily think that that's something that you want to do. But in terms of like an album from the four, I don't think YG is the best place for you to do that. Even though I'm sure Teddy has got plenty of vaulted songs that y'all have already recorded that y'all could put on an album and put out to the public. I'm certain that that's the case, if he hasn't used them all for Baby Monster and Blackpink. But I'm just saying, I don't think YG has the resources, and I don't believe that YG has the intention of doing 2NE1 right. So it is really kind of like bittersweet to be able to celebrate the reunion of this group, but having to do it under the auspices of YG's incredibly corrupt umbrella. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of YG also, because I need to go ahead and talk about this too, since it is super related, YG has decided to give G-Dragon his name back. Now, I don't know if G-Dragon's ever going to release music again. I don't know, and at this point, my personal desire is not there to hear it. And it's not because I don't like G-Dragon or anything like that. It's just that, I don't see another place for G-Dragon to go. Does that make any sense to you guys? Like, I don't want to seem like I'm being offensive, because G-Dragon is super talented. In fact, with him not being, sorry, I just moved the camera. With him not being on YG anymore, over there is, it's my BTS Lego house. Over there. You can see the donut. I made the BTS Lego house. It's in my closet. Anyway, G-Dragon left YG. 2NE1, not on YG anymore. G-Dragon, a very competent songwriter. It would have made more sense to me for G-Dragon to, instead of trying to do his own record label to release his own music, it would make much more sense to me for G-Dragon to have his own label to market his songwriting, and for him to be writing for other people, and for him specifically to be writing music for 2NE1. G-Dragon and CL working together to write music, to me, would be a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the news that we're getting is that G-Dragon is going to get his name back. And I have to wonder, has him not being able to have his name been the thing that has kept him from being able to go forward with music after he left YG? Or is he suffering under kind of the YG curse in that YG kind of mentally mind fucks their artists into thinking they can't do without YG. Like at this point, Top has given up. Top is like, I'm not going to do anything having to do with music ever again. Leave me the fuck alone. Taeyong did have a comeback, a brief comeback. He had Lisa and Jimin on his comeback, so it's not like YG wasn't spending money on him, but I think that comeback kind of came and went. The armies really liked the Jimin track. The Blackpink fans really loved Lisa's track, the Blinks, but it didn't really go anywhere or really make a memorable mark for a lot of people. But yeah, YG, now that they're in their time of need and they need people to come back home, 21 track, come back home. Anyway, now they need people to come back home. They decided to give G Dragon his both G Dragon and GD. They had both of his nicknames. They decided to give them both back. And I don't know if that's going to materialize into anything for G Dragon. I mean, if he had come out as Kwon Ji Young, I would have known who he's talking about. But yeah, good for him. I'm glad he's got his name back. At this point, I really don't know many people who are looking for a Big Bang reunion. I mean, there are some people. Recently, I've been on Korean cheerleader TikTok, and apparently at sporting events in Korea, they still dance to Bang Bang Bang, if you did not know that. So there are people out there who would welcome a Big Bang reunion. I'm not saying they aren't. I just personally don't know a lot of people who've been like, oh man, when will the day come? And, you know, if we're being honest, the reason why there aren't as many people craving a Big Bang reunion is because the members have been caught up in so much drama and scandal and hard feelings and everything else that I don't know. Would I want a Big Bang reunion without Top? No. Would I want a Big Bang reunion without Daesung? No. So if Top saying, I'm not involved with that group anymore, I'm not doing music anymore, if Daesung is been run out of Korea because they think that he's operating a whorehouse in a building in Gangnam, then a Big Bang reunion right now without those two is basically GD and Taeyang. And yeah, they could probably do it on their own, but I don't necessarily want that. But I don't think that Korea is going to support us having an OT4. So what are we going to do? And damn sure nobody wants Sungri back in the group. So I don't know. It's just something to think about. And then it's not related to disbandments or reunions, but you asked me to talk about it, so I'm going to. Let's talk about HyunA for a hot second. You guys, there are very few times when I find myself in a position to laugh at somebody else's misery and not feel bad. Normally, if I laugh at somebody else's misery, I end up feeling bad later on because I'm like, you know what? Somebody's suffering, and we shouldn't be laughing at other people's pain. And we don't know the background of their pain, you know, so let's cool it on the rejoicing in other people's sad, sad lives. But I have to say, it has brought me no shortage of joy to listen to the crickets that appear every time HyunA decides to make a festival appearance. So let's talk about what HyunA's been up to recently. I think the last time I talked to you guys, HyunA had announced that her and her perfect boyfriend have decided that they're going to get married. They're supposed to be getting married in October, which I'm not sure why they announced their marriage in October because that's not close. At least not to me. But, oh, I saw a spider. Sorry, guys. I saw a spider, and I just wanted to make sure it did not come near me. I digress. So, HyunA and her boyfriend are supposed to be getting married in October. And that was the last piece of horrible news that I had heard from the HyunA front. And then TikTok decided to bless me with several of HyunA's festival appearances that she's made over the summer, where HyunA has been playing her biggest hits, guys. When I say her biggest hits, where HyunA is doing Lip and Hip, where HyunA is doing Bubble Pop, where HyunA is really doing all of the songs that made all of us think that she was the it K-pop girly. And crickets. People on their phones, people looking at the person next to him saying, is now the time for us to go to the concession stand. Her spider's moving. The spider's moving. Sorry, you guys. I love y'all, but I cannot let the spider bite me. Sorry, I just... It's summertime in Colorado, and so there's bugs fucking everywhere. If it's not spiders, it is fucking grasshoppers, it's cicadas, it's fucking everything. I hate spiders. I do. Stay over there. I don't care if you live or die, just stay over there. Okay, I digress. All right, so back to what we're talking about with HyunA. This is such a ratchet live. I feel so bad. So HyunA, she's been performing. You should go on TikTok and see those performances. I think you'll find joy. But she's been performing, and the crowd has been crickets. The crowd has not been cheering for her. The crowd has not been happy for her. The crowd has not seemed interested in her. The organizers of these shows are probably wondering, why the fuck did we bring her here? And in the midst of all of that, HyunA herself looks like a broken woman. And I don't want her to be broken necessarily. But I can't help but feel a little bit of Schadenfreude. Is that the German phrase? She brought this upon herself. She really and truly did. She brought this upon herself. I don't know how you think that women in the crowd should be happy for you when you're telling them that you're planning to marry a man who laughed at images of another woman being raped. I don't know how you expected the women in the crowd to cheer for you. Because unlike the women who were raped, whose videos he laughed at, those women didn't have a choice of having their pain and their agony displayed for prying eyes to see. You have a choice on your involvement with this man. Those women did not have a choice of their involvement with that man. And I've seen what I like to call HyunA apologists saying, you guys have so much smoke for HyunA. Why don't you have that same smoke for her boyfriend? Let's really get down to why. Number one, he's not nearly as big a celebrity as he is. He was the rapping member of Beast. Let's be very clear about who he was. He was the rapping member of Beast. HyunA was fucking HyunA. She went by one name. She was the one, the most famous of the two. At the time that they got together, she was the one with the active celebrity career. She was the one who was actively promoting in Korea. He is not. He cannot. So why do we give her smoke? Because she's the one who's asking for our dollars right now. And I think that's a point that a lot of people don't make, and they should. HyunA is asking us to buy tickets to the festival that she's performing at. She's asking us to buy her latest comeback album. She's asking us to help her promote for CF so she can make money. She is the one who's asking us to support her lifestyle. And by saying, you've made horrible decisions and we won't give you anything, we're not only making a statement about who we believe she is as a person, but we also are affecting him. Because if she can't make money, she can't give him money. And that's the reason why we're focused on her. When's the last time he had a festival performance? When's the last time he put out a CD? When's the last time he thought he was going to have a US tour? He hasn't. She has. She's the one who keeps getting in our faces, asking us to give her money. She's the one who keeps saying, I want you to love me. And that's why we keep coming back to her and telling her, no, we won't love you anymore. You have ruined this relationship. We're not together. We've broken up. In the immortal words of HyunA, don't call me. She did this. And so, yeah, she's getting a lot of smoke because she's the one who's asking the most from us. When he got out of jail, his statements were, hey, I'm sorry. I really wasn't that involved, but I'm still sorry anyway. I plan to be quiet. That was what he had to say. What she's had to say is, please celebrate my love. Please watch over us kindly. We're going to get married in October. I just released an album. I'm planning on having a world tour, guys. I'm going to be at this festival. She's the one who's been constantly asking us for attention And that's why we're giving her the attention she craves. Not necessarily in the way that she craves it, but we're giving her the attention she craves. So that whole argument about y'all have so much smoke for HyunA and you don't have enough smoke for him, when's the last time he asked me to buy a CD? When's the last time he asked me to support his US tour? It hasn't happened. It is her. And that's why she's getting this smoke. That's why she's getting this criticism. And we need to really be honest about it, because you know what all this is? It's all capitalism. Every single bit of this is capitalism. And if he had been a bigger celebrity when all of the golden phone shit went down, I promise you people would have more smoke for him. But he wasn't. Because again, he was the rapper from Beast. He wasn't even the best guy in Beast. He was just the rapper from Beast. So nobody gave a fuck about him, really. He wasn't also ran in a huge scandal. We had kind of forgotten about his ass. His group even had forgot about his ass. So if he doesn't get the smoke that he should get, it's because he's not the one in our faces. But I will say this. It looks like Cube is not doing well. It looks like G-Idol probably won't want to stay with Cube once their contracts go up for renewal, because them girls look tired and they have been voicing their frustrations. And there's not really another act on Cube that I could say could support that building if the girls from G-Idol leave. And so there won't be any more men for HyunA to farm from the Cube factory. And that makes me happy, because there is a pattern there. And it is a really weird pattern. I think we've talked about it before, but let's talk about it again in brief. HyunA dated another member of Beast. She dated Hyunsung from Beast, if y'all forgot. She dated the rapper from B2B, the one who got caught smoking weed, is no longer in the group. She dated Dawn, who was in Pentagon. And now she's dating the final boss from the Cube building, the rapper from Beast. I feel like if there are any more men left in the Cube building for her to date who have blonde hair and look slightly sickly, she's going to jump on them. So I say all this to say, if Cube goes out of business, HyunA may never date again. So if her marriage doesn't go well, she'll be an old maid, because there won't be any more young men for her to have. I mean, she could try to go back and see if anybody else from Beast wants her, because, you know, Highlight is still an active group. But, you know, I think the other members of B2B really don't want anything to do with her. They all look pretty healthy. In fact, they're kind of buff. So, yeah, I don't know where she's going to find her another very skinny, blonde former idol from Cube. So the question was asked, did she really date Il-hoon and Sunghyun? Okay, so this is the thing. HyunA has only ever collaborated with her boyfriends. And I'm not saying that to be shady or anything else. Hyunsung, I think, acknowledged at one point that him and HyunA were dating. So if you saw HyunA with a man, that was her man. In fact, I love the fact that it is documented how biased she was towards her boyfriends. When you look at the video she did with Triple H, the very first video they did, the 365 So Fresh, if you watch that video, they're supposed to be a throuple. This is supposed to be a polyamorous situation, kind of a polyamorous Bonnie and Clyde. They're supposed to be a throuple. When you watch Triple H, I didn't mean to say 8, I meant to say H. When you watch the Triple H video and you see all of them on the bed, only 2 people are fucking. And the only 2 people who are fucking are the people who eventually got outed for being in love and dating. He was just like their beard. He was there to keep it from being too obvious that those 2 were together. But yes, she only really collaborates with men she's fucking. She really doesn't care for anybody else. And I don't think she dated Il-hoon for long. I think she dated Il-hoon long enough to give us a classic and then go away. But yeah. So I wish her all the worst. I hope you get back everything you sow. I hope that karma is a bitch, just like Jojo Siwa said. I really hope that you have made the most of this life, because I don't think you'll see much more fun in it, especially if you're going to be with this man. Because one of the things that actually does pain my heart to say, later on, when HyunA finds herself in a rough period of time with this man that she's chosen, and she's looking for people to be her ally or listen to her story if the day comes that she needs to leave under dangerous or violent or emotional circumstances, she'll have alienated virtually anybody who would want to be there to hear. And that pains me, because women who find themselves in situations with somebody who is manipulative, somebody who is violent, somebody who gaslights you, somebody who tears you down emotionally, it sucks. It sucks to be with those kinds of people. And sometimes the only way to get out of those kinds of relationships is to know that you have a soft place to land, a place to go, people who care about your well being and want to see you do better. And with the way she's been moving, I don't see a way to recover. Now, granted, HyunA might be a terrible person and she doesn't deserve to have a way to recover, but I don't see how she's leaving space for that eventuality. And that makes me sad, because one day she might wake up. I don't know if she will, but one day she might wake up out of this fog and she might look for something different. And it might be because this man she's with finally showed what kind of asshole he really is. And she's like, I gotta get out of here. What television show is going to want to interview you about your separation? What record label is going to want to take a chance on you based on your previous performance and sales? What concert is going to want to give you a slot so that you can make a little money to help you pay for your lawyer's fees? Like, that is the thing that I don't think a lot of people who enter into these toxic relationships on purpose understand. Here's me getting personal, but not too personal, because I don't want to drag this shit out. I've known people who have dated someone who is no good for them. I have a very close girlfriend, not gonna say her name, but I have a very close girlfriend who, she dated a guy who I hated. He had no job. He had kids that he was not paying child support for. And honestly, I didn't even think he was that good looking, but I heard he had a huge dick. Anyway, he and my friend were dating. They were on and off because he was always fucking up something. But this was during a time when they were on. And while they were on, she used to let him borrow her car, and he would drive her to work, drop her off at work, and then drive around town and then come pick her up after work. Tell me if you've heard that story before. And one day, after dropping her off at work, he gets in a car accident and he totals her car and he totals the car of the person he hits. And it's his fault. This is his fault that this accident happened. Come to find out, when the police show up, he does not have a license. And when my friend called her insurance company, they told her because he was an unlicensed driver, they were not going to cover any parts of this crash. They weren't going to repair her car, even though she had a brand new Jaguar. They were not going to cover the person's car that he totaled, so that person took her to court, and she ended up having to pay them out cash. They weren't going to cover anything. She lost so much money in that deal. Do you think that for 1 minute he thought, I should get a job and I should pay her back for all of the damages that she's suffering as the titled owner of the car, because really and truly this was my fault? No. He vanished. He was so worried that she was going to ask him to contribute to making her whole again that he dumped her so that he didn't have to deal with it. And me and her are still good girlfriends. We are. We really are. But did I want to be there for her in this situation? No. I absolutely didn't. because she knew this man was no good. She knew he had kids he didn't support. She knew that he didn't have a fucking job. She didn't even ask him, I guess, whether or not he had a valid driver's license before handing over her fucking keys. But because our friendship had a value much greater than her relationship with him, we held on, and we are still friends today. And this situation happened close to 20 years ago, just to give you an idea when it happened. But there was like a few months there where we just never talked about that situation. We didn't talk about her losing her car. We didn't talk about him. We didn't talk about when eventually they got back together for a brief stint of time. We didn't talk about him. We just made an agreement that we weren't going to talk about him. And it sucked because there were times when I knew she really, really wanted to talk about him. I knew there were times when she wanted to talk about the shit going on with her car. I knew that she wanted to talk to me when she told me she had a court date going up because the lady whose car he hit was going to sue her. I knew those were conversations she wanted to have with me. But before he had crashed her car, I had told her, you need to leave that motherfucker alone. He is no good. And she didn't want to hear that from me. So when it came time to tell me all of the woes and the aftermath of a man who I had already told her, he ain't no good, girl, leave him the fuck alone, I didn't want to hear it anymore. When she didn't want to hear it from me, I had to let it go. When it came time for her to tell her story, I didn't want to hear it either. And for a while there, I wasn't sure if our friendship would survive because it was a big pain point for her because it was super expensive. But we managed it and we did good. And she is my daughter's godmother. But yeah, it was tough. And that's the future I see for HyunA. I see HyunA having a future where her celebrity friends aren't going to show up for the next album release. As it is, I've really racked my brain whether or not I wanted to support Hyolyn anymore because Hyolyn went to HyunA's album release party. And I was like, girl, why the fuck would you do that? But she did, along with a few other celebrity types. But after that album flopped, and after seeing all these performances where nobody wanted to clap or sing along with HyunA as she sang some of K-pop's best singles, like, come on. Who's going to be there for her after this? And honestly, if I was one of HyunA's girlfriends, I wouldn't have her around me and my man. I sure wouldn't. Because I don't want my man to get the idea that I put up with the same bullshit that she puts up with. I don't want you to think just because we're friends, you can start talking that misogynistic bullshit around me and I'm going to be fine with it. No, thank you. So yeah, I wish her all the worst. But at the same time, it pains my heart because when she does wake up, she's going to need our help. And I just don't think that we're going to be there to give it to her. I really, really don't. I know I won't, though. That's on her. And that's her fucking fault. But let's get back to the topic. Disbandments and reunions. So the last time I talked to you about disbandments and reunions, well, not disbandments and reunions, but just disbandments, I talked to you during my last video that I did, Devilman Crybaby and Tan. I talked about my experience watching Devilman Crybaby. If you want to hear about that, I do not have spoilers, but I just talked about how absolutely devastating and unprepared I was to watch something like that. And then I talked about how I really enjoyed Tan, and I talked about my 10 favorite songs, and then I talked about, just saying if you find that there's value in the songs, go ahead and continue to follow the members of Tan and see what their next adventure will be. From what I heard, the leader of the group is like leaving entertainment full stop, but I think the rest of them are going to be pursuing acting and maybe some singing. So, follow them on social media. They could use somebody in their corner because they had good music. They just had, I don't know, they just didn't have luck. That's what I'm going to chalk it up to. They just did not have luck. But let's move on from there. I have a list. I went on a K-pop website and I looked up a list of all the groups in 2024 that have broke up so far. And so the way I'm going to approach this, I want to talk about the groups that I think are kind of like the bigger groups on this list first. And then I want to talk about the groups that are a bit smaller. I think that's the best way to do this because I feel like if I went in alphabetical order, it would make for a wildly uneven time. And so, yeah, I want to get you guys where you want to be and then get you guys where I need you to be, if that makes any sense. And just for you guys, if you have never heard of any of these groups, don't feel bad. A lot of these groups, I had never heard of. Most of these groups, almost all of these groups, I had never heard of either. But it's fun to discover new things. You know, I've never been a new group promoter myself because I've always been an SM company stan. I hate saying that out loud, but let's just tell the truth. Anything that SM comes out with, for the most part, I'm here for. So I never really had the new goose struggle like other people do. But every once in a while, I am a new group promoter. I don't know if you guys remember, but I was very early on the ATs train. If you don't remember, I'm going to jog your memory now. I was very early on the ATs promotion train. Also, I think that Kiss of Life is the new Sistar. Fight me in the streets. But I'm just going to say, everyone who said Brave Girls was the new Queens of Summer, everyone who said I was the new Queens of Summer, every group that's ever declared themselves the new Queens of Summer, go home. It is Kiss of Life. They are the new Sistar. It just is what it is. And Natty kind of looks like Yolan. So, I mean, it's a fact. Thank you. I also brought out Oh My Girl before they got big. I'm telling you, if somebody was to come to me as the arbiter of taste, I'm telling you now, I get the vision. Sometimes I don't, Red Velvet, but most of the time I do. Most of the time I see the vision. I get it. Even Vix, I was an early proponent of Vix because I remember listening to You Are My Starlight before Vix had a chokehold on anybody. Well before Vix had a chokehold on a lot of people. So, you know, I'm just saying, I'm a tastemaker. Trust me. But none of these are going to be people that I think you absolutely have to listen to. I'm just saying, we're going to talk about them. So let's start first on my list, Cherry Bullet. So Cherry Bullet was a group under FNC, and they were the first girl group formed under FNC after AOA. So not the very first, but like after AOA blew up big, they decided to do Cherry Bullet, which is notable because FNC is really not a label that's known for their girls. Like C and Blue is a big one on FNC. FT Island is a big one on FNC. They're mostly known for their boy bands, and not boy bands like dance, like boy bands as in boys who play instruments. And so, yeah, FNC was not really known for girl groups, especially girl groups doing like choreography and cute stuff. That's not a thing that FNC was known for. But Cherry Bullet debuted in 2018, and I want to talk really briefly about them. Let it be said right now, and don't ever let anybody tell you different, Cherry Bullet had the best light stick ever invented. Ever. Ever. I don't care who you are. I don't care what group you want to bring up. Cherry Bullet had the best light stick ever made. And I've seen some incredible light sticks out there, guys. I still think that Shiny has one of the most beautiful light sticks. But it is all about Cherry Bullet's gun. I think it's fucking genius. So Cherry Bullet, great light stick, solid vocals. They had a very decent female rapper team on their group. But I will say, I watched about 3 or 4 Cherry Bullet videos, and one thing I noticed that really was a problem for me, I feel like because FNC has been so male focused, and I think it had been a while since AOA had really been out there promoting, I feel like their styling was completely off. I feel like whoever was tasked with making sure the hair, the clothes, everything was on point, they kind of were just watching other girl groups and said, okay, let's do that. Like, it didn't feel like anybody approached their styling in a way that was creative. I mean, the name of the group is Cherry Bullet. I feel like every concept they did should have always been red or cherry colored because they are Cherry Bullet. And if it's not red, it should have been black because, again, bullets are like gunmetal gray would have been cool. But I just feel like the stylists really didn't have their game on when it came to these girls. And as sad as it is to say, and I'm going to say this quite a few times when I'm talking about this list, visuals matter. You know, K-pop is not really a genre where the best singers are always the ones who win the chart wars. It really is about being able to capture the attention of the crowd. And Cherry Bullet never really stood out from the crowd because they were not styled very well. And you need that because sometimes if people are scrolling through a list of K-pop recommended videos, it is that hair or it is those clothes that stand out to somebody and get them to click on that video. And so, yeah, I think that that was a huge thing that kept them from blowing up the way they could have because they, again, they were assigned to FNC and FNC has industry connections. FNC can get you on Music Bank. FNC can get you on television shows. FNC can do a lot, but FNC obviously can't hire a stylist because that was a huge problem for these girls. Another big problem I would say also is I think that they didn't get really good songs. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not saying this to be mean to Cherry Bullet. Like I said, decent vocals and actually two really good rappers. I don't know if the same person who was Jimin's rap trainer was the rap trainer for Cherry Bullet, but I actually really like the rappers for Cherry Bullet. But again, I don't think the songs were written in a way that really helped this group very much. So looking at their discography, I noticed that their top MV was an MV for Hands Up, and their top Spotify song is a song called Love So Sweet. And the last title track that they had was a song called POW, which I believe is Play Over the World, something like that. And that title track was in 2023. So they didn't even have a comeback in 2024 at all. Now, they did have an opportunity to kind of like get back in the limelight. A number of the girls participated in Queendom Puzzle, but that just really wasn't enough to get people to get back on board with Cherry Bullet. So, to the Lullets out there, because that is their fandom name, Lullet, I feel bad for you guys, but you know, at least you're left with a legacy of fun songs. If not the best songs, very fun songs. I made a note to myself that Love So Sweet, the chorus on that song sounds a lot like Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. Let me know if you agree with me or not, if you've heard that song before. But I thought that the Hands Up video was fun. Love So Sweet is a cute song. Even POW, not a bad song. I just think that the songs weren't necessarily very strong, and I think that they were a little bit behind trend. Some of them were like by the time they're doing Love So Sweet to sound kind of like Bad Guy, I don't necessarily know if the timing was right. So, you know, there's that. Next, we're going to talk about Mirae. Their fans are called Nows, which I don't understand why, but that's a thing. And they were a group that existed from 2021, which was their debut, to 2024 under the label DSP. Now, this group came out super quickly after X1's demise. So if you don't know who X1 is, brief little history lesson. Produce 101, they had a season called Produce X, I believe, and the group that was formed out of that season was X1. Everyone was really excited about this group to come out. I actually bought a copy of their debut album. There was one member of that group in particular by the name of Johan, who was the number one pick of the show, who I really, really liked because he did his audition in Heelys. And yeah, it turned out that Mnet's going to be Mnet, and there was a bunch of shenanigans. There was a bunch of bribery behind the scenes, trips to strip clubs and expensive dinners, and people who should have been in the final lineup did not make it into the final lineup. And so they disbanded the group immediately after debut. And when I say immediately, I don't even think they had a chance to do a music show. If they did, they might have gotten one music show, because I want to say it was the week after they debuted that everything got called the fuck off. And so after that, everyone was scrambling to try to figure out what are we going to do, because this project group didn't work and my record label put me in this project group and they're not really ready for me to do stuff with the company because like I was supposed to be here. So it just so happened that in Mirae, I want to say that there were maybe 3 members of that group that went on Produce. Let me look here because I have it in my notes. Yeah, I think there were like 3 members of the group that went on produce. And so Dong Pyo, who I do not like, was one of the members of X1, and him and some of the other members of the label who tried out for the show, they all are in a group called Mirae. And I have to say, they had a really great start. I don't want to seem like a shitty person the whole way through because I'm gonna say some things that aren't nice, but I think being able to be the first off of the block with a group after everything happened was really great. Like that they already had an infrastructure for promotion. So I think that was really good. I think the timing was awesome for that. The problem is they had a group structure for Mirae. They did not have a song structure for Mirae. So I went into Mirae blind. I was hoping that by going into the music blind and promising myself that I would not let Dong Pyo's appearance in these music videos bias me, that I would be able to find something that maybe I had missed previously. Like, I have to say, the experience of listening to Tan really pulled my nose open. Like, it really made me open minded. It really made me want to love a lot of this stuff because I'm like, if I could find a Tan in the disbandment grab bag, I could find fucking anything. I was really, really excited about it. The songs were horrible. I am so sorry. The songs were just not it. If you love those songs, I'm not saying you have bad taste. I'm just saying you and I don't listen to the same radio stations. That's all I'm saying. Because if this group was not a group I was listening to in order to have these conversations with you, and I heard this song on any of these songs on Spotify on a random K-pop playlist, it would be an immediate skip because I wouldn't know who they were, and I would have no reason to continue to listen to songs that I don't find interesting. So I want to talk about what is their best. So their top MV is a song called Splash, which I remember listening to the song and thinking, this reminds me of a style of music that SM tried to promote for a while there called Complextro, where it is very kind of like not dubsteppy, but kind of dubsteppy, very kind of I don't know. I'm not a sound effects guy, so you get it. But it's like very, wah 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 wah, that kind of sound. Very Complextro. And then their top Spotify song is a song called Killa, which I will say, Killa had a great video. I watched the video for Killa just because I'm like, okay, it's a top Spotify song, but maybe there's something to support this. I thought the video was great. The video is very kind of like Blade Runner, very futuristic. It's a really good video. I really, really like the video a lot. And the song kind of sounds very Daft Punk-ish. If you're familiar with the harder, better, faster, stronger sound of Daft Punk, this song has a lot of that sound to it. So if you like that kind, then Killa might be for you. It didn't sound enough like Daft Punk for me to love it, but you may love it. And then looking at their discography, their last title track was a song called Running Up, which was actually a Japanese release. And I thought that song was actually okay. It's a lot calmer than the other songs that I listened to for them. It kind of didn't fit with the rest of this discography, if I'll be honest with you. But I thought it was a shame that their last song was a Japanese song because this Japanese song was their first Japanese release. And I've noticed it seems like a lot of these K-pop companies, if the bands aren't doing super great in Korea, they'll try to start releasing stuff to the Japanese market as a last-ditch effort. And frankly, I don't find that fair. I really, really don't. And I say that as somebody who stands a group that has a very strong Japanese catalog. I don't think it's fair that because Japan is such a big music market that you wait until you are almost completely out of steam and then you release really lackluster, cheap music for the Japanese market. Like, if you would take the time to kind of go dual coast for a minute, you could probably find yourself with a really long and solid career in Japan. But when you give Japan your last gasp effort, when you do a video that's basically y'all in a studio in your street clothes, like, honestly, I don't know how you expect this to be successful. But yeah, I just think that the big problem for Mirae is that as time has gone on, their sound didn't really update with like what was out there on the market. I think that DSP just really doesn't do a good job of helping their groups to keep up with the times, which is strange because DSP is the home of Kara, and Kara had a very long, successful career. But yeah, like I think about Card, for instance. I love Big Matthew. Big Matthew makes me smile. I don't ever want to hear his voice in terms of singing. I would probably subscribe to his OnlyFans, to be honest with you, just because I'd be curious. But I don't want to hear him singing or rapping at all, whether in English or in Korean. And Card as a group, I find them quite dull. And so I don't think that DSP has the musical tastemakers that they need on their label. I think they need to clean house when it comes to maybe the songwriters they're used to choosing, and they really need to come through with something different in order to be able to have more success on the market, because DSP has the track record of being able to come up with some successes. I just think when it came for Mirae, like they just, because they were trying to get out there so fast, they weren't very careful with like the lead tracks and even the follow-ups. I think they were just trying to continue to milk as much as they could out of that X1 visibility, and they just didn't have the catalog of songs available for this group. So that's how I feel. And side note, all of the members but Dongpyo decided to not renew their contracts with DSP. So Dongpyo is still with the label. That's the other thing I want to talk about real quick. Again, it's me, Samantha, being a bitch. I watched, again, like I said, probably 3 or 4 of these Mirae videos. I know that Dongpyo is the face of the group because literally his face would be in the middle of the thumbnail for these videos, but I don't think I ever saw him sing a single lyric in these videos. And I'm not being facetious. I went back and I rewatched the Killa video like 2 or 3 times, because there were a couple of times where his face would be on screen and there would be someone singing and I would wonder if that was him singing. But like, yeah, I never saw him sing anything, even though his face would be the thumbnail for a lot of these videos. But it was wild to me how much FaceTime he got for someone who wasn't singing any lyrics, it seemed. Also, it was stunning to me how out of place he looked in that group. I mean, I don't know if it's just because I watch a lot of BL. That's probably it. That's probably it. I hate to admit that, but it's true. A lot of times I feel like visuals have to work together, and it doesn't do any good to have a group where there's like 2 really hot guys and like 4 trolls. That's not fair. Looking at Mirae, there were some hot guys in that group. Don't get me wrong. There were some really beautiful boys in that group. However, none of them look like they would ever be in a group with Dongpyo. And I mean that from like a visual perspective. They all looked like grown men who are ready to do grown men things, and he looked like he just graduated from high school, and it made for a very kind of disjointed appearance. And I think that also can kind of fracture a fan base in some ways, because most people, if they have a group that they really like, they have like a bias and a bias wrecker, and you can find a little bit of correlation between your bias and your bias wrecker. Like, for instance, Minho's my bias in SHINee, but Jonghyun is my bias wrecker. And when I think about Jonghyun and Minho, they share about 5 brain cells, and so yeah, there was a relationship there. They have very similar interests. They don't necessarily look alike, but they are similar enough for me to be like, yeah, I could get why he would be my bias. Record won't be my bias. But in Mirae, I don't know how anybody who biased Dongpyo would have any interest in any of the other members of that group, because none of them would be your type if Dongpyo is your type. At least it seemed like that to me. But, I digress. All right, let us keep going. Next, we're going to talk about the group Nature. Now, Nature was a group that debuted. Their first debut song came out in 2018, and they disbanded this year of our Lord 2024. And they were under in period CH is the group, I guess. They were also signed to Pony Canyon and Main Base. So they used to do promotions in Japan, and they did promotions in South Korea, and they had members who were South Korean, Japanese, and Chinese. And when I heard they had Chinese members, the first thing I thought was, y'all should have leaned heavy into the Chinese market. I always will think that. I don't know why that stands out in my mind, but whenever somebody says they have a group member who is from some place other than South Korea, but they're a K-pop group, I always feel like you should find a way to lean into these people's home country, because I know that a lot of these countries are coming up with their own boy bands and girl bands who are molded off of the K-pop model. It used to be that the J-pop model influenced K-pop. Now K-pop is influencing Thai pop and C-pop and M-pop and all these other pops out there. And so it makes sense to me that, take somebody who is in the home of where the trend is starting and have them promote in their home country with this kind of more authentic background and make some fucking money. But that's just my marketing brain saying that. All right. So one thing I also noticed is that this group had a lot of members. Like, they had almost as many members that were former members of the group as they had promoting members of the group. Like, I think this whole group at one point turned around. It was really, really weird. And there were a lot of hiatuses of members of this group too. Like, a lot of people who, one girl went back because she needed to go to school, people who left because of mental health issues, people who left because of injuries. Like, it just seemed like this group was not managed very well, or whoever was supposed to be like managing the relationships within this group really wasn't doing a very good job. But listening to their music, I have a lot to say as somebody who is a casual listener. First thing I want to say is that when I looked at them, if you had told me to guess the name of this group, it would take me probably 2 years to guess that this group's name is Nature. I watched multiple videos for them because, again, I was trying to give a fair shot to people. I'm not trying to be an asshole on purpose. I just was born one. And as I was watching these videos, I'm like, where does the concept nature come from? It can't be the clothes, it can't be the makeup, and it's absolutely not the songs. So where did that concept come from? By the way, their fandom is called Leaf. 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 But yeah, like, the songs were like your regular, generic, standard, upbeat K-pop. The clothes were your standard girl group fare. We're talking skirts, crop tops, that kind of thing. Everyone's wearing lipstick. Everyone's wearing very visible eyeliner, eyeshadow. Like, no one in the group looked like they just left a girls' preparatory school. I don't understand where the nature concept comes from for these girls. So their most popular music video is a music video called I'm So Pretty, which the song has a very kind of like sassy, cute sound to it. I like the song. It was fine. Their top Spotify song is a song called Limbo, which actually, Limbo is kind of enjoyable. It's just a slight bit overproduced. Like, there's a lot going on in that song. And their last title track was also Limbo, which came out in 2023. But yeah, I watched and I was just like, nature. I don't understand where nature came from. Like, I don't even think they had a video where they were like outdoors in a forest at any point. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. But Yeah, I think that that is the problem, is that they had a name that did not fit their group, which makes first time listeners very confused. If you click on a K-pop video for a group called Nature, I think you're expecting something that sounds like G-Friend. Also, I feel like the name Nature was an awful choice. And I don't say that to be shitty to them, besides the fact that, Nature and the appearance didn't work out well. I had such a hard time finding their music by typing in Nature MV. So, in order for me to prep for this conversation, what I did is I went on Spotify and I would look for the music there, which Spotify is the best place to look for K pop music because Spotify, even if they have a name like Nature, they're pretty easy to find. If you have looked for K pop before, they're going to know that's what you're talking about. But just going on YouTube and typing in Nature MV, because I wanted to see their most popular video, because you can sort it by like view count. I scrolled probably past another, I probably scrolled past 25 videos before I got to their video. And I mean, videos from Western artists as well as K pop acts. I scrolled through so many videos to get to their top video because it's just a nightmare to name a K pop group a name that is one word that is so common in the English language. It's really hard if you're an international listener and you're wanting to keep up with this group. Same thing with Mirae. Actually, that was another thing I meant to mention when I was talking about Mirae. When I looked up Mirae MV, do you know what came up before anything from that group came up? A whole bunch of songs and videos for HyunA. A lot of music for HyunA. So, I think when you're naming these groups and thinking that they're going to have big success, especially if you're thinking anything about international success, you have to give them a name that can be easily searched because people want to find out information. That's the kind of society we're in now. We're in a society where people don't just want to listen to the song. They also want to know about the group. They want to know about the members, everything else. Well, Korea already, it's kind of tough to look up members because there's so many people in Korea that have the same name. So that already can be one thing. But then calling a group Nature and you look up Nature K-pop, you can look up a list from Sumpy of the top outdoor nature K-pop videos. You don't know what the fuck you're going to come up with. So this needs to be something that is considered very, very carefully when you're naming these groups. So, best of luck to the girls from Nature. But yeah, boy, was that tough. All right, speaking of groups that do not look anything like their name, let us talk about Pink Fantasy. So Pink Fantasy is a K-pop group that had their debut song in 2018. They're under a record label called My Doll Entertainment. They too had a ton of member changes, and after debut, they had 3 different subunits, which that's very ambitious. They're really doing things. They also have a fandom called Love It. So if you are a fan of Pink Fantasy, you are a Love It, because I guess you love it, you love their music. And they have a masked member. That member's name is Daewang, and that member wears a bunny mask. Has from day one. I don't know what this person looks like. I went online and I tried my best to search to find out what this person looks like. And there are some pictures of this woman with like a half of a mask on, but I have no fucking clue who Daehwang is. They say that Daehwang is a lyricist, and apparently now that Pink Fantasy is disbanded, she is working on her own group called Two Thix, Two They. It's TOTH, the number 6, the letter Y. So is it Two They? I don't know how to count to 10 in Korean. So if you can, what's the Korean for 6? Anyway, she's planning to have her own group called Two They. There's going to be 3 members from Pink Fantasy in that group and 2 members from this other group called TMC, which is on the same record label. TMC is a group that literally only has 2 members. It's 2 guys. And it's going to be a co-ed group. And interesting enough, her new group is going to be a group that has themes of queer liberation. That's very ambitious for South Korea, I have to say, because things have been really, really bad in South Korea in terms of like gay rights and stuff. I mean, they recently decided that they would honor queer marriages that were made outside of Korea, but queer marriage is still not a thing in South Korea, and the church groups in South Korea have really been ruining a lot of the pride celebrations in the country. But I digress. Let's talk about Pink Fantasy here. So Pink Fantasy, their top music video is a song called Fantasy, and that is also their top Spotify song, and their last title track is a song called Get Out. And when I told you that the name does not match the group, I meant that. If I ask you to tell me what you think Pink Fantasy might be, I will tell you what I think Pink Fantasy would be. Barbie. I'm sorry. If somebody said I'm creating a group, they're gonna be called Pink Fantasy, I would be thinking, oh, so it's gonna be like Barbie themed, and everybody's gonna be wearing like pink clothes and maybe like puffy skirts, and it's gonna be very girly, and everyone's gonna have like curled hair, or they're gonna have long hair, or they're gonna be, in delicate jewelry. Like that's where my mind goes. I'm thinking cakes. Ooh, sorry about that. I'm thinking cakes. I'm thinking anything but what this group is. Now, remember I told you they have a group member who wears a bunny mask? And I told you this group's name is Pink Fantasy? I'm going to ask you one more time. What would come to mind if I say Pink Fantasy? Pink Fantasy, in this case, is basically the concept for Dreamcatcher. And I'm not even kidding with you. It is guitars. It sounds like the theme song to various Japanese animes, like Death Note or something. Like, it is very, it's dark. The videos are dark. Everyone's dressed in like black or deep red, and the bunny's got blood dripping off of its mask, and the songs are very good, the guitar and dark sounding. Like, Fantasy is a nightmare. The song Fantasy is a nightmare. Who did this? If I could say anything, I would say I think that the big thing that made people not necessarily want to listen to Pink Fantasy is because they're named Pink Fantasy, but they should have been named Pink Nightmare. Like, what are we doing here? Seriously, what are we doing here? I understand that, it might be funny at first to be like, oh, get it, ironic, it's called Pink Fantasy, but they're actually a nightmare. Like, I understand that. I'm not completely clueless about stuff like this. But I think that's only really cute when they debut. And as we keep going on and we're telling that same joke, I don't think it lands as well as it did the first time you told the joke. And so I really wish that this group had a different name, because I think if they had leaned into a horror name, that would have been really good for them. Like, if they had been like, I don't know, Rabbit Rage, or something else. Rabbit Rage is a terrible name, but if it had been like Rage Fantasy, like, that shit would have been cool. But yeah, the group is super similar to early Dreamcatcher. I haven't really listened to Dreamcatcher lately, so I can't tell you what they sound like now, but like, when I look at their videos, like their popular videos, when I listen to the sound of their music, it very much makes me think of like Catch Me. So yeah, I think that was the biggest problem with this group, is that there is an audience for that sound, there's an audience for that look, but that audience just wasn't being catered to with that particular name. Also, I had an idea for them that I wanted to ask you guys about, because I really thought that this would have been cool. I said, the name doesn't match the group, but they have cool vocals, and if they had a horror manhwa tie-in, that would have been fire. So, I've been dabbling in like creating concepts for K-pop groups, because me being an arbiter of good taste, that's what I do. That's my hobby. But I was like, the thing that would make Pink Fantasy stand out from a Dreamcatcher is if, instead of having this lore that you had to know about before you got into the music video, and like you had to like be a part of the fan cafe to get. What if they're, first of all, what if they had a different name? But two, what if instead of them having this dark kind of horror themed music going on just by itself, if they had had a manhwa series done that introduced you to this group, set up a scenario of like a horror themed group, and then maybe something scary going along with that, if they consulted with some of the people who make some of these really big manhwas in Korea to be like, hey, it's just going to be like a really brief 3-month run of a manhwa to tie in with this group, and then we'll debut the group and we'll play some of the songs throughout the course of the manhwa. Anyway, I think if they had had that kind of tie-in and then debuted the group and then did like a web drama to go with it, I think that shit would be fire. I think that that would really work out well and made it like more of an interactive kind of project group thing. I think that would have been really, really cool. But I don't know. I think because whenever you're dealing with horror concepts, it can kind of lean towards novelty in some ways. I think that that is a reason why they needed to come up with something that, if we're going to lean novelty, let's really lean into the experience. Also, because I think if you had framed Pink Fantasy as these manhwa tie-ins, and every time they had an album come out, there was a new manhwa concept that came out with it, then if at some point they decide our concept is too close to Dreamcatcher and we want to change things up, they could change some of the theming of the manhwa that introduces the next album to make it to where that album can change its sound, because you change people's expectations through the material that you released prior to the album's release. But that's just my idea. All right, let's keep going. I know this is a long stream, guys. I mean, we're probably going to be here for 2 hours, so if you've got water, drink it. Next, we're going to talk about a group that has a horrible SEO name. Like, my God. This group's name is TFN, which could stand for Teen 1419. It could also stand for Teenager. And they are on MLD Entertainment, which that is a discussion we need to have on its own. But their fandom is called Edelweiss. So if you are a fan of the Sound of Music, then you should know how to pronounce that word. If you're a German, you should know how to pronounce that word. Austrian too. But they are a part of MLD Entertainment. For those of you who don't know, MLD Entertainment was the home of Momoland, which that was a whole clusterfuck. MLD Entertainment is also the current home of a group called Lapalus that still has fans, and of one of our favorite female rappers, our homegirl, Cheetah. Cheetah, we love you. I hope you're safe. But yeah, MLD Entertainment, from what I understand, is a subsidiary of Double Kick Entertainment, which is the production group Double Kick. They do a lot of K-pop music production, and they have been in the news. The entertainment company has been in the news because all their employees have quit because they have not been paid. And the CEO has run off to the Philippines to produce a boy band there called Horizon. And I don't know if TFN decided to disband because there was no money left, or if they're disbanding because like things weren't working out, people weren't buying into the concept, they just weren't making any money from their efforts. But I don't know what's going to happen with everybody else on that label, because they're still putting products on their YouTube channel. Like, I went on their YouTube channel to look at these music videos, and the MLD Entertainment YouTube channel has content as recently as like a little less than 2 weeks ago. That's how recently stuff is being uploaded to their YouTube channel. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lapalus disbands soon, because obviously they have a company that has no money and no employees, so it's very hard to continue when there are no employees. But man, it's just fucking sad. It's really fucking sad. But, you know, this goes into a theme that we'll see with some of the smaller groups we're going to talk about. Entertainment companies in Korea have a lot of predatory practices. I mean, gosh, we're here for the whole TS Entertainment saga. But even just companies like SM, they have predatory contracts. They have contracts they make you sign when you debut that they put in a vault in Switzerland and then bring out later to say, look, you renewed your contract. There's a lot of shit that goes down with these K-pop companies. A lot of them are fly-by-night companies that are literally established to steal the money from young hopefuls who think they have what it takes to be in the entertainment industry. Like, it's fucking rough, and it's not any easier in any other country either. Because I want to be clear, I'm not criticizing Korea and its entertainment. It is the entertainment universe. There are a lot of people who get into entertainment to steal from people who have hopes and dreams. And I think MLD, because they have an affiliation with a very reputable production team, that people didn't see it for the scam that it looks like it's turning out to be now. Or it could just be that because of their affiliation with Double Kick, they were like, we're going to do great. We have all these connections. We're going to knock it out the park. And when things didn't go well, they just really didn't know how to end things gracefully rather than not paying people. So either way it goes, let's talk about the group itself, its music. So the top music video for this group and the top Spotify song for this group is a song, oh my gosh, I hope I can say this name, Aserbalbata. Now, I don't know what that means. If you know what Aserbalbata is, tell me, let me know. But yeah, I have no idea what Aserbalbata means. However, I noticed in the comments a lot of people were talking about how there's a lot of Latinos who were fans of this group. So I don't know if it means something in Spanish. I really have no clue. But that's their top song. And when I was listening to it, I was like, this kind of sounds like a dubsteppy fire truck. Like it reminded me of NCT's Fire Truck for some reason, but like more dubstep. So I don't know, take that for what you will. And their last title track was a song called Ice Cream, which was recorded in Espanol. So if you speak Spanish, check out Ice Cream by TFN. You might like it. I don't know. It might be fun just to hear a song that's in like your native language. So there you go. But yeah, it just seems like overall the group was horribly mismanaged, and there's really not much you can do about mismanagement. You know, it's not a thing that you could be the best singer in the world. If you are mismanaged, there's nothing you could do to recover from that. It just is what it is. So, sad days. Next, I want to talk about, I don't want to talk about them just yet because to me, they're the ones that are the saddest to have disband. I think we want to talk about Limelight. Let's talk about Limelight. So Limelight, they are a girl group that debuted in 2022. They disbanded this year. They're under 143 Entertainment. Now, I feel kind of weird saying disbanded because apparently this group is not disbanded. This group doesn't have a ton of members, but the entertainment company said that the group is disbanding in order to re-debut as a group called Made In, and it's going to be spelled like Made in America. It's going to be spelled Madein, so it's Made In. So even though Limelight is no longer a thing apparently, they're not out of the game according to their entertainment company. According to their entertainment company, they will be back, but they will be back under another name, and they're going to have new members when they come back, which I don't know what they mean by that. I don't know if it means that they're going to come back with the old members plus some new members, or if they're going to come back with all new members like the other group whose name I don't want to say right now because all I can think is Cupid. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that, so keep that under your hat. But anyway, this group, their top Spotify song is a song called Honestly, which when I heard it, I immediately thought, this song should be in a teen drama. Like, I could totally see like a high kick series with this song in it. It just, I don't know, there's something about the energy of this song that very much gives off like young and youth and bright, but not in a corny way. So really, really weird. Also, their top music video is a song called Ta-Da, which is a very kind of like summery, road trippy, like I wouldn't say sister, but I would say like on the way to the beach with the top down, you and your girls listening to music and holding on to your sunglasses, hoping they don't get blown off your face, like that kind of vibe. Um, I really like them a lot. I thought that Tada kind of, to me, it has what I like to call the TikTok rhythm, which I think I've coined this before, or I've talked about that term before on my channel, but like you know the song "Say So" by Doja Cat, or like Cupid, I get a second chance at Cupid. There's a TikTok rhythm. I don't know if you've ever heard that in other songs. Even Sabrina Carpenter, na 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 na. There's a TikTok rhythm, right? This song "Tada" to me had a very TikTok rhythm to it, so I could absolutely see that song being kind of big if it was under the right circumstances. I don't know if it just came out at the wrong time of the year or if maybe Limelight just wasn't known enough for them to be able to capitalize, but it does kind of fit into the trend of its time. I really hope that they actually do make a comeback. I really honestly hope that this group actually does come back as something bigger, only because, and this is going to sound really stupid, and I don't even know why my mind went there, but as I was watching their videos and looking at their music videos and listening to the songs and listening to the way that the videos were, like looking at the way the videos were filmed, the way they were dressed, I don't know why, but it really made me think of Stellar. Which, if you don't remember Stellar, Stellar was a second gen group that had a big hit with the song Vibrato, which was a song that they did that sounded like nothing they had ever done before. And then they followed it up with a song called Sting. And then things just like didn't go well for them. But I remember really loving Stellar and thinking that Stellar was much more than the kind of clickbaity, uncle pleasing videos that they ended up releasing. Uh, and as I was watching Limelight's videos, because they're a very small group, I just like, I really like the energy off these girls. I don't know if it's because of the way these things are shot or what it is, but I just get the feeling like these girls deserve another chance. Like they deserve an opportunity to make the most of their opportunities. So I don't know what will happen with them, but Made In, I think, is probably a better group name for them, only because, again, if we're talking about SEO search, limelight limelight is a very common phrase when it comes to music in America, because people are like chasing the limelight, standing in the limelight, in the spotlight, you know, like it's a common kind of thing. And so yeah, it'll be good for them to get a name that I think is a little less common, because Made In is one word. But yeah, I hope that things work out for them. And I hope that the members of Stellar are happy with whatever life they're living currently, because I really liked Stellar. I really, really did. Anyway, let's keep going. So this is the last group and probably the biggest group out of this entire list, and that would be Wiki Mickey. So Wiki Mickey disbanding is sad for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think they are the last of the produce groups from the first season of Produce. If I had to put it down to that. So that's kind of sad, because I don't know, the very first season of Produce, in my opinion, produced the most stars of all of the seasons, the biggest stars of all of the seasons. Well, I take that back, because the season that I hated, that I talked about on my channel, had Wan Young, who was the top trainee on that season, and she and I were doing quite well. But I remember thinking that one of the girls in this group in particular was one of the most beautiful girls I had ever seen. And I'm not typically one to be like, there's my girl. But I remember seeing her when IOI was promoting and thinking, who is that? She's fucking gorgeous. And that's really hard to say when you think about IOI, because IOI had Jeon So-mi, IOI had HyunA. So it's not like there were a bunch of dogs in that group. There were some gorgeous, gorgeous women in that group. But the person that I'm talking about who is beautiful is Doyeon. Guys, she's like a beautiful cat lady. That's the best way I could phrase it. There's no better way to say it. She's a beautiful cat lady. She's just, her face card will never decline. She's so, so beautiful. And so, yeah, Wiki Mickey, they had the most beautiful member of IOI, in my opinion. So they should have done well. They had 2 members of IOI actually in their group, so they should have done well. But, even though I have fond memories of the first season of Produce, we're talking about Wiki Mickey debuting in 2017. It is now 2014. That's 7 years. I don't think that people think about that first season of Produce anymore. And you've seen HyunA has kind of struggled in the most recent years. You see that So-mi has even kind of struggled in the last couple of years. Like, have y'all heard So-mi's new song? It's not great. It's not. And I feel like with every comeback, they bleach her hair lighter and lighter and lighter. Like, I swear, her skin and her hair are the same color now. It's wild. But yeah, like, Produce, the first season, it's just not in the front of the cultural minds of people who listen to K-pop now. Most of the people who got into K-pop in the last 3 years probably don't even know IOI, to be honest with you. And so I get that, like, the steam from that season just didn't exist anymore. And in order for Wiki Mickey to be able to be a viable option nowadays, they needed to be able to exist in this landscape, doing what people are doing now. And that just isn't something that they were able to continue with. So let's talk about it. Wiki Mickey was under Fantagio. I don't think that Fantagio is a bad company. I just want to put that out there. Fantagio is the home of Astro. Fantagio is the home of a boy band who is horrible, but I love, called Surprise. But Fantagio is an acting company, in my opinion. I have never thought of Fantagio as a music company, ever. I don't know how they got so lucky to have such beautiful and talented trainees in order for them to be able to come up with a group, but Fantagio was never a music company to me. Fantagio was an acting company whose actors did music to promote their acting projects. That's how I always felt about that fucking label. And so I think that, like, that is a huge part of the reason why Wiki Mickey just really couldn't capitalize the way they needed to, because Fantagio just wasn't equipped. Like, literally, they were not equipped. They could not do the job. They mishandled Astro in a lot of ways. Surprise, that was a joke. Like, that literally was just a joke. They just aren't a music label. And I really think that hopefully with Wiki Mickey disbanding, that they will just not do music anymore. Like, promote the people y'all got, but don't start any more music stuff. Especially because as I was listening to their music, I remember thinking, like, okay, some of these girls can actually sing. But this music sucks. This music is not good. This music is not anything that I would listen to more than once. There wasn't a single song I listened to that I was like, oh, I'm going to add this to the rotation. Or, oh, I'm going to remember this song the next time it comes on. None of the songs were memorable. So their top music video is for a song called Cool, which I remember saying sounds like runway music, but the video's nice because the girls have a lot of like boy energy, if that makes any sense. I highly recommend watching the music video for Cool. I mean, because again, beautiful, beautiful people. But in the music video for Cool, all of the members are dressed in like boy band costumes, and they do choreography that is very kind of like boy band inspired. And I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cool, no pun intended, that they kind of like flipped the script and they did a boy band video, but with girls, basically. So definitely check that out. The top Spotify song is a song called Picky Picky, which to me has a very kind of like bratty, sassy K-pop sound, a sound we've heard before. And their last title track is a song called Coincidestiny, which is a kind of sad spring, hopeful but sad song, kind of like hopefully one day we'll meet again. It was just a coincidence that destiny brought us together, that kind of thing. But yeah, like music wise, no consistency, no standard theme, songs that are just honestly very forgettable in my opinion. In my opinion, if Wiki Mickey had your favorite song, good. If Wiki Mickey is your favorite group, great. If Wiki Mickey has people who you don't ever want to let go of, follow them on social media. Follow their Instagrams, their Twitters, follow their Weibo, follow their Kakao, follow whatever you can of them. Continue to support them. Watch their dramas when they come on TV. But music wise, for me, the biggest misstep is that they were signed to Fantagio. And the biggest misstep is that Fantagio is not a music label, in my opinion. And I saw somebody said that Hello Venus was also signed to Fantagio. Again, Fantagio is not a music label. Do you remember what made Hello Venus famous? I mean, if somebody wants to throw it in the chat, we could talk about it. But what I remember making Hello Venus famous was them standing behind a wrought iron fence, shaking it in two-piece terry cloth short sets, and doing a twerk that to this day, I don't know if legally you are allowed to call a twerk. So again, Fantagio is not a music label in my opinion. Fantagio is an acting label, and they've got some great actors. They've got some really beautiful actors. I want to say that they have that one of the actors from the first TV show Cheese in the Trap is on Fantagio and was in Surprise, and he played the guy I actually liked in Cheese in the Trap. Man, I remember ranting about Cheese in the Trap on this channel. For those of you who don't know, I used to watch more K-dramas than I do now, and I did a whole video about Cheese in the Trap because I was so fucking disappointed in that show. And I talked about how the second lead of Cheese in the Trap was like light years better than the lead actor from Cheese in the Trap. Anyway, I digressed again. But Wiki Mickey, I wish all of you the best. You seem like lovely, lovely girls. You're beautiful girls and super talented. So I really do hope things work out for you. But yeah, Fantagio, please stop making music. Just don't. If Astro wants to do a comeback, let them do what they want to do. But quit making music. Stick to the acting. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, now we're going to get down to the groups that, like, honestly, there's just not much to say. We're going to talk about them, but there's not much to say. Oh, also, Wiki Mickey. I didn't talk about their fandom name. Their fandom name is Keeling, which I don't know what that means, but, you know, cool, cool, cool. So the first group I'm going to talk about is a group called AQA. They were given their first release in 2022. They disbanded this year. They're under an entertainment group called Star Tree. They only had one release. It's a song called Wonder. It is a mid-tempo R&B track with typical K-pop rap, weak vocals. If you go on Spotify, that release has two songs on it. There's a song called Wonder, and then there's a song called Thunder. Thunder, I thought was a really nice ballad, but again, the singing is weak. It's not something that particularly stands out to me, but if you want to support a group that has less than 1,000 monthly listeners, go ahead and check them out. Next, we have Black Level, another group that came out in 2022, disbanded this year under VT Entertainment. They only ever had one release, a song called Infection. and it is basically Netflix dating show background music. But they do have a whole album that you can find on Spotify that was financed through crowdfunding. And this is why I want to talk about. This is what I wanted to talk about earlier about these entertainment companies. This group was formed. Their company didn't have enough money to release music for them, but they made a group, which, I'm sorry, what kind of fucked up logic is that? Why would you make a group if you ain't got no money to put music out for them? Like, you're putting the cart before the horse, if you will. So they did crowdfunding and raised the money to do their very first album, and they do. They have an entire album on Spotify if you want to listen to it. The album is terrible. These songs are mixed horribly. Like, literally what they did is they bought songs that were already made, and then they had the guys record vocals, and then they smashed them together. There was no good integration. Even the music video for Infection, when you watch that music video, it looks cheap. It looks like it was filmed in the basement, and it sounds atrocious. So I think this was just one of those money-making schemes that a couple of entrepreneurial individuals had, and I'm not surprised that they disbanded. Next, we're going to talk about Floria. They are a group that debuted in 2020, and they were under DK Entertainment, and that label had another group before Floria called A Daily. They only ever had 2 singles in the year 2020. Chitty Chitty is the main song that popped off for them. Chitty Chitty and Yummy Yummy. Weird that they have songs with double word titles like that. And they have been performing fucking Chitty Chitty and Yummy Yummy since 2020. Like, literally, there are videos of these girls performing in 2023, and they are still singing Chitty Chitty, which is wild because Chitty Chitty is an awful song. So I don't want to say it's awful because there's not potential there. I actually was listening to Chitty Chitty and I was like, okay, the verse is not that bad. I could probably work with this. Then they got to the chorus and I'm like, what good hell is this? Chorus is awful. The chorus is super fucking awful. But yeah, these poor girls, their company had them on stages performing these songs for 3-4 years. That's wild. That's wild. I hope you girls find happiness. Next, we have HyunA, who they debuted in 2023, and I put them on the disbandment list, but I don't know necessarily that they're disbanded. I'll tell you why. So they're with a company called Art Company Soul. That is the name of the company, Art Company Soul. And they announced their disbandment in January of this year. However, in July, the company announced that they are working on a comeback. So I feel like they're disbanded because who waits 6 months to tell people they're having a comeback after you announce that they were disbanded? But, you know, maybe they'll have a comeback. I don't know. They only ever had one song, a song called Blaze, BLA, colon ZE. I'm not sure why that colon is there, but literally, if you listen to this song, it sounds like music from Love Island. Like, if you've ever watched the UK show Love Island, it sounds like New to the Villa. It doesn't sound like music that people would actually pay to listen to. The vocals are trash. Like, the song sounds like royalty-free music. What is the point of coming back? Okay, whatever. The next group I'm going to talk about actually does have a fandom name. This group is called... Actually, I'm afraid to say this because I don't think I can say this group's name right. It's Jwiver? It's JWIIVER. Dwiver? They debuted in 2022 under Starweave Entertainment, and they disbanded this year. Their video for the song J-Trap has almost 1 million views, but there were no comebacks. And the song, I think, sounds really, really good. I just think that the company didn't have any money. Because when I listened to the song J-Trap, it kind of reminded me of the song Pop Stars by KDA. It had a very kind of similar sound, which I could totally see somebody loving that. And then again, like I said, the video has almost 1 million views, but I just don't think they had any money to continue to promote them. But their fandom was called JENA, Jena. And yeah, hopefully the guys find new places to go, new things to do. And then the last two groups I have on here also have fandom names, which is crazy because none of them have like long discographies. We have Megamax, which debuted in 2021. They have a fandom called Maximum, which makes sense. They're called Megamax, Maximum. That makes sense. They're under Inter BD Entertainment. They've only ever had one album called Painted Love, and it is very, very tropical house. And I mean tropical house in 2021 when tropical house was really on its way out. Like, I feel like the pandemic killed tropical house in my opinion. So yeah, like way after the trend. But you know, if you like tropical house and you haven't heard in a minute and you've never heard of this group, there's a new song for you to listen to. Hey. And then the last group we're going to talk about is a group that I think is called Seed. XEED, Seed. It is a group that debuted in 2022, disbanded this year under the label Nature Space. Their fandoms are called Greenies, Greeny, Greeny. And their top music video Spotify song is a song called Dreamland, which is very tropical house. And their last comeback was a song called Blue. Now, this is where I wrote my problematic note. I said, okay, hear me out. Exceed. Their name is Exceed, not Seed. Exceed. X-E-E-D. Exceed. Thank you, Anthony. Now hear me out here. I'm going to say something wildly controversial. But if you've never heard of this group and you've never watched their video, you won't know whether I'm bullshitting until you listen to them. I think that their rapper sounds like Mark from NCT. Have you ever listened to this group? If you haven't, you don't know if I'm bullshitting. But I would be willing to have you leave here and go listen to them and then come back and write me an angry missive in the comments section just so that you could listen to this and tell me if I'm right or wrong. Like, I'm willing to put myself out there as a sacrificial lamb because I need to know if my ears are broken. But yes, Exceed, I think that their songs were okay. Besides their rapper sounding like Mark, their songs were okay. But the song Blue, to me, sounds very much like Netflix dating show music. So like, kind of generic, kind of what you expect from K-pop. Nothing really stands out except for their rapper. But yeah. That is the last of my list of disbanded groups. And so, yeah, I am so glad that we had this time together. We've been together for almost 2 hours. Anthony, you're a trooper because you were here first. But yeah, like, it's sad that so many of these groups are disbanding and some of them under like really kind of tragic circumstances. But you know what? Life goes on for them, and hopefully they can find another way to do the thing that they love, or they can find a new thing to love, and you know, look back on this time as like a fun story to tell at parties, a way that you could like, yeah, I was in a K-pop group, you want to see it, here's the YouTube, that's me right there. Like, hopefully it'll be something that was enriching to their lives rather than something that was a horrible traumatic memory. And then I didn't put it on here, but I kind of wanted to put it on here. This year, thank God, is not a year where we're reporting a lot of idol deaths, but there was an idol who died this year who was actually pretty big on debut. Her name was Park Boram. I knew her because she did a song with Park Young from, I was going to say, I didn't know the name of Block B. Park Young from Block B. But yeah, she did a song called Ordinary Love on his album Notebook, which I really, really liked. And her biggest song was a song called Beautiful, which was also done with another member of Block B named Zico. Maybe you've heard of him. But she had a lot of success singing OSTs. She did an OST for, I believe, Reply 1988. But she died this year. She died under really sad circumstances. It wasn't well, it wasn't on purpose. I'll put it that way. Apparently, she went to a party with her friends. They were having a good time. She had a couple drinks, went to the bathroom. After a while, her friends didn't hear from her. They went to the bathroom to check on her, and she was slumped over the sink and she was not responsive. They called the police and she was declared dead. And it turned out after autopsy that she died of acute alcohol poisoning from pre-existing liver conditions. And, you know, her career was pretty big when she debuted, but then it fell off like it did, like a lot of people's careers do, because she was pretty big, like maybe 8 years ago, but she dated Someone Gook. You know, I mean, she was living that celebrity life, and there are people who watched those dramas that she did OSTs for that they remember her voice, and they remember her voice during that pivotal time and that pivotal scene of that show that they remember fondly. I mean, the Reply series was a huge series, so you know, she had her time, and I hope that her friends and family are finding ways to recover, ways to honor her memory, and I hope that her star continues to be remembered by the people who enjoyed her music. I enjoyed Ordinary Love, and I listened to it again after a long time, and you know, it was nice. She was not featured in the music video for the song. Instead, I think he had Homegirl from 15 and, but I really liked her voice. She had a really, really good voice. Cute, cute girl. It's just sad, you know. Sometimes these things happen, and you know, apparently she did not know that she had pre-existing issues with her liver, because it wasn't something that like her family or anybody was aware of. It's something they discovered, you know, after it was far too late. But yeah, you know, I'm glad that that's really the only loss I have to report, and I hope it stays that way, because I don't like talking about tragedy. It's not my favorite thing to do. So I really don't want to talk about any more people losing their lives, or any more terrible things. But with disbandment, you know, I feel like a lot of times when we think about disbandment, we look at it from a fan point of view, because that's where we live. That's where we live as fans. Obviously, I don't look at it disband. I've never been an idol, so I can't look at it from their point of view. But from a fan point of view, we look at it that way, and we think about, oh, we're gonna miss you, or oh, you know, I'm not gonna get any new music, or oh, you know, I really wanted to keep following you on social media. But I don't necessarily think that disbandment is always a bad thing. I don't think that disbandment always has to be tragic. I don't think that disbandment always has to be bad for idols. You know, just like Anthony said, Lee Seraphim recently had a documentary that shows how fame is breaking these girls down. Sakura could not be in any worse a mental state. You know, she's terrified to open her mouth and sing, because every time she opens her mouth to sing, there is a criticism for her. And it doesn't help that, you know, Korea is not very kind to non-Korean idols. You know, wink, wink. Remember that season of Produce, it was very, very biased towards the Korean idols. So, you know, K-pop fame is not the very fun, awesome, cool, amazing, only positive thing that companies promote. It can be draining. It can be mentally exhausting. It can be one of those things where you would rather do anything else in the world than do that. You know, if you recall, I want to say it was in 2017, 2018, I think it's 2018, was a year that BTS even said they thought about disbanding, because it was hard. And it has been hard. Imagine being the most successful K-pop group of a time and being like, I don't really know if I want to do this shit no more, because I really don't like it. Like, I really feel like jumping off of the Namsong Tower. You know, like, it's not easy. So instead of looking at disbandments from the fan point of view of, oh, I'm going to miss that music, I want to believe that this is one door closing and another door opening. Yes, there are some of you who your idle dreams just aren't going to come true. Like, that's just a thing. But there's others of you that maybe a different dream will come true. Maybe some of you will find success as vocal coaches. Maybe some of you will find success as choreographers. Some of you might find success writing music. Some of you might find success owning a small coffee shop. Some of you might find success working as a marketer in a huge advertising corporation. Some of you might find success working on a farm and growing organic vegetables. Some of you might find success in childbearing. Some of you might find success in finding the love of your life. You know, all of these possibilities exist for you. And at the end of the day, I would much rather have a group disband and have a group find a different life than have a group have a member decide that this life isn't for them, but they can't let down the group, so they just pull themselves out of the group and out of life. You know, I mean, I'll say it now because I've said it before, but I'll say it now again. If I had to choose between SHINee disbanding and Jungin still being here, I would disband SHINee in a heartbeat because I'd rather have him here. So, you know, idlehood is nice. It's really nice. And the clothes and the music and the dancing and the makeup and the hair, it's all real cool. It's all real cool. But there is a seedy underbelly with these fly-by-night entertainment companies and these predatory contracts and this need for sponsorship when the label's money runs out, and you know, fans who invade your privacy and won't let you have peace, and you can't find places where you can just be yourself, and the isolation and the loneliness and the criticism and people feeling that they constantly have the right to critique who you are as a human being, not even just as an entertainer, but who you are as a human being walking the face of the fucking earth. And I can't say I'm not a part of that loop because we're sitting here talking about him. I'm absolutely a part of that loop. But, you know, for some people, that hamster wheel that you're on in order to do this thing, it's not worth it. And I like to believe that maybe for some people, disbandment is the best option in order for you to be the best version of yourself rather than the best idol you could have ever become. So, I don't know. I just want to put that point out there. I don't want us to look at disbandment as always the most horrible thing, because it's not. As long as life goes on, then, you know, we're Gucci. I'm Gucci. So, thank you guys so much. Ulysses, you're wrong. He sounds like Mark. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.